Getting into chapter 4, our first lesson is writing and graphing inequalities. Let's try to remember what inequalities are. So an inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares expressions. So inequalities are those greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. If we kind of look below, these are those symbols that might look familiar. You will always see one of those symbols when we're dealing with inequalities. So let's backtrack. Let's go back up top here to this second bullet point here. A solution of an inequality is a value that makes the inequality true. So we're going to try to decide whether or not -2 is a solution to each of these inequalities. So if I want to know if -2 is a solution, I'm going to plug it in for the variable and see if my inequality remains true. So I want it to be -2. I'm going to replace y with -2. So I have -2 minus 5. I want to know, would that be greater than or equal to -6? So let's evaluate the left side. What does a -2 minus 5 give us? Keep, change, change. -2 plus a -5, that gives me a -7. Is -7 greater than or equal to -6? Yes or no? Hopefully you're thinking no. -7, since it's negative, it means that it's less than, smaller than -6. So -7 is not greater than or equal to -6. So this tell whether -2 is a solution. -2 would not be a solution to this first one. Let's try the second one. Same thing, we're going to plug in -2 for our variable. So now -5.5 times a -2. We'll evaluate that to see, is that less than 14? So if I have 5.5 and I double that, maybe you know your facts, or maybe you need to go off to the side. There's plenty of room over here. And let's actually multiply those. What is 5.5 times 2? Hopefully you get 11. Negative times a negative gives us a positive 11. Is 11 greater than 14? Yes, that is true. So is -2 a solution? You would say yes for this one. So that's to tell whether a specific number is a solution to the inequality. Let's continue on. A solution set is the set of all solutions of an inequality. An inequality can have more than one solution. So before we were dealing with equations. Equations have one solution, but inequalities have more than one solution. These, a nice reminder, maybe you want to put a nice highlight around this box. These are your inequality symbols and these key phrases. You're going to need to know these because you're going to have to be able to write inequalities from words. So less than, fewer than, greater than, more than. This shows less than or equal to. I will say I would maybe highlight at most and no more than. That's the same thing as less than or equal to. And then greater than or equal to, the words at least and is no less than are also words that mean greater than or equal to. Those are probably the newer ones or the trickier ones, these 4 words that people probably mix up the most. Okay, so when we graph an inequality, we want to show all of the solutions of the inequality on a number line. That's what a graph does. Now, in order to do that, we have to put a point. There's going to be a circle. It's either going to be open or closed. And then you're also going to have an arrow. It's either going to go to the left or it's going to go to the right. So when a circle is opened, you would mark it and it would stay open, exactly how it sounds. If it's closed, you're going to draw that circle, but then you're going to shade it in. You're going to fill it in. That's a closed circle. So closed versus open. So an open circle is used when the number is not a solution. Not a solution symbols mean that it has to be just less than or greater than. It cannot equal it. Whereas a closed circle means that it is a solution, and that means that it's less than or equal to, or it's greater than or equal to. So when it's equal to it, we close the circle. When it's not equal to it, it stays open. Now, which way the arrow extends, if it's going to the left, think of numbers to the left. As you move to the left on a number line, we're looking at numbers that are less than or equal to. That would make our arrow go to the left. And if our arrow is going to go to the right, that means those are numbers that are greater than or equal to. So those are the symbols you would see when your arrow is going to the left or right. All right, let's do some practice here. Write an inequality for each graph. So when you're writing an inequality, you're always going to have a variable. So say we choose X. We're then going to have a symbol and you're going to have a number. The number you use is where's your graph starting? Where's that circle at? It's at 12. Now, is that circle opened or is it closed? It's open, right? So if it's an open circle, it's either going to be less than or greater than. But now we need to look at our arrow. Is our arrow going to the left or to the right? To the right, so these are numbers that are greater than 12. So we would say X is greater than 12. That's the inequality for that graph. Maybe you want to pause and try this one off to the right on your own. Take a look at the graph and then try to write it. Or just keep following along. So again, we're going to put a variable. I would look, where's my circle at? And now take a look. It's it's a closed circle, so I know that it has to equal it. But now does my arrow go to the left or to the right? So it should be less than, because it's going to the left. These are all numbers less than -4, and it's allowed to equal -4 because that's a filled in circle. So X is less than or equal to -4. Notice some of you might remember whichever way your arrow is going kind of looks like the inequality sign. Going to the right, so it's greater than. The left, so it's less than. Maybe you noticed that or remember that trick or tip, or maybe you just learned it now. All right, this is where I said keywords are going to be important. It wants us to write the word sentence as an inequality, and then we're going to graph that inequality. So let's look at the first one here. A number Q greater than or equal to -7. These are our keywords. Our variable is Q, so I would always put your variable first, and then whatever number they're dealing with is going to go to the right. And then there's some sort of inequality sign that's going to go between them. Greater than or equal to. I know it can equal it, so I have that line underneath. Greater than. Remember, which symbol is greater than? Hopefully you're thinking the alligator is going to eat that Q. That shows greater than. Or maybe you're thinking, okay, the tail end here, it's kind of pointing to the right. I know numbers that are greater go to the right. So now we're going to graph it on a number line. So when you do that, your main thing, so you're going to have to draw your own number line. You don't have to have 0 in the middle. I would suggest whatever number is in your inequality, you place in the middle, because you know that has to be on your graph. Can you put 0 in the middle? Sure. But now what I care about is the number that's in your inequality, and then I would make sure you have at least one number to the right. So think of a number to the right of -7 or a number greater than -7. We're thinking negatives, so remember, -6 would be greater, whereas -8 would be less. And now we have to actually mark up this graph. Put Q is greater than or equal to -7. So we're at -7, that's where your point or circle should go. Should it be filled in or open? Well, it can equal it, so we should fill it in. And then if Q has to be greater than or equal to -7, where are numbers greater than or equal to -7? To the right. So that should be our graph here. Remember, when you draw that arrow at the end, it should match what your inequality symbol looks like, so you know you're right. All right, next one. A number x is at most 5. So x, 5. Now, which inequality symbol shows at most? If you need to, remember you have this table. Look for that keyword at most and what symbol goes with it. So I found at most. Oh, look, it's the same thing as saying less than or equal to. So let's draw that. Because the most the number can be is 5. So that means I want numbers less than or equal to 5. So let's draw our number line. Now we want to graph it. I would put 5 in the middle, and then I want a number to the right and a number to the left. Could you do way more numbers? Sure, make your number line, but save yourself time and work. This is all I really care about. A number to the right, a number to the left. Make sure your number that we're talking about is in the middle. So the circle should go at 5. Since it can equal it, you should have a closed circle. So fill that in. And now if the most it can be is 5, and maybe read this to yourself, x is less than or equal to 5. So where are numbers less than 5? To the left. Think less than, left. Again, check yourself when you draw that arrow at the end of your, it should look like your inequality sign. It's just a nice tip and trick for you. And that's it. That's writing inequalities. That's graphing them. That's kind of just a refresher on our important symbols and key phrases. This table in the middle page of your notes page is extremely important. Okay, we're going to do some practice writing and graphing inequalities. And that is the start of chapter 4, which is all about inequalities.